scriptures are scriptures that should talk to us. If they talk to no one else in the world, they should talk to this church. For you see, these are scriptures that deal with people. People that have different problems. The Israelites were folks that thought they were just deserted. But God really didn't love them because here God had taken them into the wilderness. All they had to eat was manna and these doves that flew down, or quail actually, that flew down. And that's all they had to eat. And they fussed about it. They fussed about how wrong they were done. Then they got to a place where water was in very short supply. And of course, what do they do again? They fuss about it. They fuss that they're not loved, that they're not cared for, that God is just leading them down the wrong path. So what does God do? He sends Moses and a few elders, and I like the fact that he didn't only send the preachers, he sent some members of the congregation along with them. And they went out, they found a rock. He hit it with his staff and water poured forth. And they were all taken care of again. I think about those journeys and I think about us as human beings. A lot of us knew a God when we were small and young. And we loved that God. We loved going to church. We loved all the things around religion. And then, all of a sudden, we were told stories that said we're not part of God's world. We believed it. We went out and we walked the wilderness. For me, I walked the wilderness. The wilderness for me happened to be, let's have fun if I'm going to go to hell anyway. A lot of bars that I probably shouldn't have been in. Why, even one time, being 19, I passed off my sister's ID so I wouldn't go to jail when they raided us. But she was 21, and we looked alike. I remember all those things. I remember not caring a whole lot because, you see, God didn't want me. Just like the people in the wilderness. We thought God had deserted us. We thought we weren't good enough. Oh, that doesn't only deal with gays and lesbians, it deals with all kinds of people. Why, sometimes it even deals with children. Because you see, they'll do something. You remember when you were a kid and you were told if you told a lie, the wrath of God was going to come down on you? Remember that you were taught the commandments, and if you happened to steal a candy bar, you knew you were on your way to hell because you broke the commandment. Talk back to your mama and daddy. Oh, Lord, help us. We broke a commandment. Wish ill on somebody around us. You know, even little things. I played softball. I loved softball. Thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And I don't know how many times I prayed that the other team lost. Or that the best player would trip and break an ankle. Something of that nature. I knew God was mad at me. I knew I was on my way to hell. I think there's a lot of us that have gone through those places in our life, gone through the wilderness. We get to the book of Romans and we have Paul talking to a lot of people. The Romans. Who were the Romans? Why, those were the folks that did the crucifixion. Those were the folks who had how many Roman gods? I remember taking those classes in college and I could not possibly remember all their names other than Zeus, Mars, a few other ones. So these were people who did not believe in the one and only true God. And then, here's Paul telling them how Christ came to save us all. Not only the Jews, but each and every one of us was included in God's plan, in God's love. That Jesus had made the ultimate sacrifice for all of us. The Roman church grew, went underground, persecuted, and still believed. And now we get to the woman at the well, who is one of my very favorite characters in the whole world. And there's so many stories to be told out of the woman at the well. Everything from how Jesus chose a woman to be the first evangelist, to go out and tell the rest of the world that he was the Messiah. If you read the Gospels, any of them, that's the first place that Jesus declares himself as the Messiah. I think about all of that. I think about the woman at the well, and I remember I used to love the story when we had a friend that came to church, and I won't mention her name, but she had been married 5 times, and I'd love to tell the story about Jesus and the woman at the well so I could see her face turn red. And I think about that. I think how she was chastised. How do I know she was chastised? Because you see, she went to the well at an odd hour. Now think about it. If you lived in the desert, or even here in the summertime when it gets to be 110 degrees, when do you do your outside work? I don't know about you, but I get up as early as I can on a Saturday and get it done before it gets any hotter. They collected the water in the morning, the people of the village, because they had to carry a lot of it back to the house, and it had to last till the next day. And it was a gathering place. It was a place where all the women in the village could come, share stories, gossip, do all the things that women do. Don't look at me that way, women, and tell me you don't gossip. I've been around and I've heard you. But they all came to that place to do those things. And here we have somebody that was an outsider. And how do we know that? Because she came at noon. And she had a chance encounter. And she asked questions. It should be something that gives us, each and every one, permission to ask questions. Questions about whether what we've been told is true or not. You know, she said, who's right? Is it our ancestor Jacob who gave us this well? Is it the Jews that live in Jerusalem that say that's the Holy Ground? Who's right? Tell me. And Jesus told her something. Told her something about her life. Told her something about the world. That God could not be contained to any one people. That God was too great. And that all are included who seek God. It's quite a message when you think about it. It's displacing all those things we've been told about. You had to do this, this, and this. It's that story that tells us that what's important is we love God and we love each other. This woman who was chastised, this woman who would not have said anything in the world about what she believed or who she was to the rest of those villagers, because you see, you know that because she hid. And when at noon, just like so many of us that aren't going to say anything about what church I go to or who I am or any of the other things we want to keep hidden in our lives. heart, soul, and mind. She was freed. She was freed by God. She was given that living water. I love that, living water. It wasn't talking so much about the water we need to live by. You know, without water we'd all perish. It's the water that fills our soul with love, gratitude, faith. That's the water Jesus was talking about. That water that says you are God's child. And you are loved for who you are. You are loved so much that Jesus came, and Jesus gave his life for you. You are God's child. And God would do anything for you. And you're important in God's sight. That's the living water that Christ had for each and every one of us. The woman at the well was the first to recognize that. Of course, she had a few doubts. She says, is this the Messiah? Just as all of us have a few doubts. And the people went and said, you're right. I don't know about any of you, but there's this Freedom to Marry on Facebook, and he'll post these little things every once in a while. And my favorite that I saw last week was a young gay man, and it was posted, what if God put us here to see if all the Christians loved one another? It makes me think, not only of us, but what if God put those Muslims here to see if we love one another? What if God put those people who persecute you to see if you loved one another? What if God put those people here that are so different than you are to see if you love one another? God is love. I like that he said that. God is spirit. And we'll never meet God until we let our love out and free. Loving one another. Loving God. Such important things for us. A story that should talk to us. A story that should tell us you don't have to be perfect. Why, you could even be married 5 times. And Jesus still loves you. God still forgives you. And God still lets you grow and serve God. Those are the important things for us as human beings. To realize that Jesus didn't come for those perfect few. Jesus came for folks like me and folks like you who may have made a few mistakes along the road. And that God is there to forgive, to love us, to encourage us, and to bring more folks through this door. More folks to serve the world. In Jesus' name.